To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de
Because
las
this here's
puertas.
a wild ride in the wilderness.
Indiscreetly doorless chamber.
So today on Miles from Main Street, we are talking about our favorite themed areas in the parks. These are areas that are themed very well that we enjoy, and they don't necessarily have to be a land. They can just be kind of like a small little area in the park that we like.
Yeah, I'm super excited to talk about some of my favorite spots. And, speaking of favorite, if you're enjoying this show, please go out and tell a favorite person of yours that you're enjoying it so that they can also enjoy this. Mikhailo, this is kind of a top 10, right?
Yes, this is a top 10.
This is a top 10. So I'm going to be that guy and take number one.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Let's go Tree of Life.
Yeah, okay.
I've always been enamored with Tree of Life. I'm gonna have trouble getting out of Animal Kingdom because I think Joe Rohde just did such a wonderful job there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna start with the Tree of Life because here's the centerpiece of your brand new park, and you need to come up with something to put there. So why not put a giant tree made out of concrete? But what really makes this fun is that not only do they have animals on exhibit around the tree, but they have trails that go around it, not just to the show. It's tough to be a bug show. They have other trails walking around, and you can get really up close to this tree and you can see these carvings and you can see the detail that has been put into these carvings, which, by the way, they only had about 8 hours to get done because this concrete was drying, right? So anytime I walk by that tree, those are some of the things that I think about when I see this tree. That and how the green leaves are differently colored from anything around it. But I think that's kind of neat the way they do that too, because it just kind of stands out and makes it really pop. And you want that as your main weenie of the park to really pop, right? So I really enjoy walking around the tree and just getting to see those carvings.
Yeah, I like that too. And you were the one of the people that like kind of turned me on to like walking around that whole area and kind of looking at everything. And yeah, walking into the queue for It's Tough to Be a Bug, there's a bunch of stuff there too that you can see from the Tree of Life. But yeah, there's just so much going on there. Like every time I go, I find like something new and different, like some like new animal or like some new area of the tree. So there's just so much in there, and it's just jam packed with all these animals. So yeah, I enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah, and WDW Radio, Lou Mangello, he talks about some of these paths a lot too, and that they're just a great place to go and hang out. Molly on Mammoth Club, she loves to go get a coffee and go to the back. It's kind of the exit to the Bugs show, but you're up against the river that's back there, and you can
Hmm.
watch some of the flotillas go by. And it's just there's such great theming in that area to kind of bring in the calmness of what Animal Kingdom can be.
Oh yeah, I totally get that, and it's definitely like the I think it's one of the better weenies. I mean, I love Cinderella's Castle. Like that's awesome. Um Hollywood Studios doesn't really have one. Spaceship Earth is really cool. But like I don't know, there's just something about the Tree of Life. I do wish they would utilize it more too for like nighttime shows because we really only have like the one like projection show that they put onto it. So But I understand that there are things that they can and can't do with animals being in that park, so it's tough.
Yeah, they need a World of Color type of show that
Yes, that
really
would be
works
awesome.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so my first one, I'm going to stay in Animal Kingdom, and I'm going to go to the village of Harambe. I think the theming in that area, and if you don't know, we're talking about the Africa area in Animal Kingdom. But just the theming in there is so amazing. Like it really feels like everything just is super authentic when you're in there. And it's not that big of an area. I mean the ride that they have back there, the Kilimanjaro Safari is huge. But like that area, it's not too terribly large, but just like all of the theming that's going on back there is amazing. They have the Lion King show back there too. Like that whole area is very cool. They have some restaurants there, but yeah, just the all of the theming, the way that they made it look kind of like a rundown African village. It just makes it feel like extremely authentic.
I think one of the cool things that stands out in that area to me is one, the wrapped coils of cable that you see like going the power lines going above you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's like exactly how it would be if you were in Africa. And so that sticks out. Some of the like well, it's not hotels, but like they have these apartments and different things on the second level above some of the businesses there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it's really cool how they've built in these kind of silent storylines,
Yeah.
of with these apartments that are above. And the final thing with that is that they have somebody that's from Africa that is doing carvings,
Mm-hmm.
wood carvings, and you can buy them. They're beautiful, wonderful works of art that this person sitting there and doing that during the day, and then selling his magnificent pieces of work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that all of that adds into it. And then of course the dancers,
Yeah.
the I always get it wrong, burudika. um they're awesome. I love hand drumming. I love the dancing that they're doing, the interaction they get with the crowd. And it's just a party. Like you walk through that area and they get going, and like the whole place is just a big old party.
Yeah, that's always very cool. And that just adds to like the authenticity of like the way that place feels, all the way down to I like I always like looking at this. They have a cannon in that area that's kind of set up because it's supposed to be a little bit like a fort too. But where that cannon is pointed, there's like a little bit of the wall kind of missing a little bit. And it's like somebody thought of that. Like somebody was like, okay, this cannon has been fired at some point, and this is the aftermath of that cannon being fired. It's just like it's getting down to that kind of detail. They didn't have to. They could have just set a wall, put a cannon there, and been like, cool. But they went the extra mile to like think, like, oh yeah, possibly this cannon has been fired. What would this area look like if that happened? And they made that happen. So that I it's that yeah, it's that level of detail that I love that Disney does.
And that's where Joe Rody really did his research, really, this was his baby. This is what he had worked on for a long time, trying to get Disney to do. And he was finally able to put it together. And, this is the kind of detail you get out of somebody that's got the passion for it. I see his posts on Instagram still, and I just, every time I see one, I just go, why couldn't you just stay with the company? Like, I know that he's on to other great things, but like, yeah, I think he's just one of those special, rare talents that needed to be with the company a little longer.
Yeah, I totally agree. So We've each done our 5. Brian, what's number 4 for you?
Number 4, I'm going to Toy Story Land. I think being shrunk down to the size of a toy by walking through one of the many portals that they've created that gets you from land to land, I think that's really just a great idea. Like if I'm going to go to a Toy Story area and I get to do some of these rides, like why not be in Andy's backyard, right? One of the things that, speaking of these little details, is the giant footprints that they have in the walkways. I think that's just a great detail that they threw in there. They have Baby Bell cheese wheels that are used for chairs. Like these are just some of these great things. There's a fence created out of popsicle sticks, and just I know that we were just kind of talking little areas, but this whole land is just done so well. And I think you do get kind of immersed in the idea of being a toy, especially when you get on Slinky Dog. When you're riding that ride, like you definitely can see how it was built by a kid, and it was one of those toy kits that he was given to create a roller coaster, right? And when I was on that ride, I could feel like it. I could feel it when you sit that second launch that they do, and those spinning like flames, totally Matchbox cars, like Hot Wheels, whatever. Like I could see myself as a kid playing with something like that. It's awesome.
So this is interesting, Ryan, because my number 4 is also Toy Story Land. And honestly, for me, this probably wouldn't have been made my top 5 had we recorded this before my last trip. But just the time, because I spent a lot more time in Toy Story Land on our most recent trip. A lot of that was because we were really enjoying our rides on Toy Story Mania, and so we were there. We were in that ride several times, but that also meant that we were in that Toy Story area a lot, and I love Slinky Dog Dash, like just the theming and everything that's going on inside of that ride and inside of that roller coaster is so cool, and being able to kind of like walk by. I love when the roller coaster goes by and you can hear Slinky Dog go, "Whoa!" I love that. That's so cool. And then it gets dark and all the lights turn on and I mean I'm a lighting nerd, so I always love that. But yeah, we really enjoyed, and I think a lot of times how much you enjoy a land also kind of equates to like how much fun you have on the rides there. And that definitely happened to us. We enjoyed the rides there and we spent more time there, so we saw a lot more. Um, so yeah, that's also my number 4.
It is great. If you've seen the artwork that has been put out for the barbecue Roundup Rodeo, I believe is the name of the restaurant that's going to be opening there. It's a full extension of this backyard idea, and I just think it's going to be perfect. The drawings inside the restaurant look authentic to the rest of the land, and I can't wait to get in there and just see how immersive that building is going to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's going to be awesome. So, I gave you my number 4 already.
You did.
So
So
you go ahead and do your number 3.
yeah, number 3 is going to be Oga's Cantina.
Ooh.
Um, Oga's is really I'm a Star Wars nerd. I love everything Star Wars. Uh and getting into a cantina, like that's one of the
Hmm.
iconic things from Star Wars, right? They
Hmm.
make sure there's cantinas in all these different movies, and Oga's to me feels a lot like the cantina in Mos Eisley, and then just adding in DJ Rex, to spin all those tunes and make his funny little jokes. Um, I could all day in there, but um, they only give you 45 minutes. Uh, the theming of the booths that you get to sit in, if you get a booth, um, are perfect. Behind the bar is where I was really interested. Some of the dispensers looked like the head of IG-88, or for those of you that like the Mandalorian, IG-11. Um, I really got into that. And then like, it doesn't just stop there. The drinks you get are different. They're space age. They have cups that you can get that are themed through the land. Like I got the Ewok one. I think it was called a Yub Nub. And I love that cup. I still use it 2 years later now, all the time. And the funny thing is it's a first edition. So now I'm thinking I need to go put it on a
Ooh.
shelf because they just released the second edition. So
Mm.
mine is like a brown color and the new one's green. Um, but like, I do enjoy playing Sabacc, which is like, in layman's terms, a space poker game. That's the game that Han won the Millennium Falcon from Lando Calrissian, and I could totally see myself playing in there and totally just getting that whole vibe. Those tables that you're at are circular, like a poker table might be,
Mhm.
and it's just, it's down even to the cast member. When I was there, our cast member waiter, she was just like calling us scoundrels, and you know that person owes me credits, and it totally fit in with Star Wars, and brought me right into it. So, yeah, Oga's Cantina is definitely a spot you need to go to if you haven't yet. And yeah, number 3.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love it inside there. And yeah, like it really like brings like the ambiance kind of like really brings that scene out from Star Wars, and it like really kind of like puts you right into it. Um which that whole land does. But yeah, definitely that cantina is awesome for that. And I don't know why, but like I mean, I'm not a big drinker, but like getting a few drinks in me and like hanging out in a cantina, in a Star Wars cantina, that like makes it all like even better. And the drinks in there, even the drinks are themed with like the buzz foam and everything. There's like foam that makes your mouth go numb and stuff like that. So yeah, like there's just so much theming to this one little area of the park. So it's very fun.
I love that they call that drink a fuzzy tauntaun because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I don't really think of tauntauns as fuzzy, but it makes sense when you've got something that's making your mouth numb, that foam. Like, it just totally works for me.
Okay, so I'm on this next one. I'm gonna ask you to go with me here. Um, and I haven't really like I know this is what I want to talk about, but I haven't officially like honed in on what exactly, like which one I like the most, and that's why I'm telling you you need to go with me here because I may need to just talk myself through it. But one of my favorite themed areas are is World Showcase. And I understand that you can't just say World Showcase because that's like a bunch of countries back there.
It's half a
Um,
park.
exactly. So I don't know. I mean they're all just so great. Norway is a favorite of mine just with like the shops and the Frozen ride and everything. Canada is another big one because Canada has like areas that you can kind of go and explore. They have like the Niagara Falls back there and everything. So I really enjoy that. Italy is cool because you can like walk all the way back and like go, like they have like all the restaurants back there. And I remember when I was there last with my sister, she was talking about how, because she's been to Italy, and she was like, "Yeah, this looks exactly like Italy. Like this is crazy." Um, and then like China and Japan. And Japan has shop, like that like really big shop that's supposed to be just like those like shops in Japan.
Well, it's Mitsukoshi, which is a
Yep.
big department store in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult, Brian. It's difficult to pick a favorite.
And when you brought up Italy, like, it made me remember, like, they're trying to make it look like different parts of Italy all at
Mm-hmm.
once. So, like, if you talk to people, they're like, some of it's themed as like you might see in northern Italy, some of it's southern Italy. And I think that's really cool that they can bring those different things into the pavilions to make it representative for anybody that's there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
But I think I've made my decision, and my decision has been swayed by my recent trip that I went on. And I think I'm going to say the Mexico Pavilion, more specifically inside of the pyramid in the Mexico Pavilion. There's just I don't know why. I don't know why I like that area so much. It just like really makes you feel like you're in this like Mexican city next to the water, and there are all these carts around, and like they really make them feel like individual carts. Like they're all selling, like they're all ran by some like somebody specific. There's a tequila bar in there. The tequila bar in itself is really really cool. And then we finally actually got to eat at the restaurant there, San Angel Inn, and just like hanging out in that room. My favorite part about that room uh in that area is the fact that they make it feel like it's nighttime, and like the sun has like just gone down. There's just like a little glimmer of blue around like the whole area, and they make it look like there's stars, and it just like it's like the perfect time. Like it's always like just nightfall in that area, and I don't know why I like that so much. I just enjoy that. And then we got to go to Santa Hill Inn, and we had a wonderful time. And there's a ride in there. There's a ride that goes right through there. It's just like I'm really excited to go to Blue Bayou because of this, because I enjoy that restaurant so much. But yeah, I think that in all of World Showcase, I think that's my favorite themed area, followed very closely by Canada and the Niagara Falls area. So,
You know, as we were thinking about this topic, the whole World Showcase came up in my mind too, because um, it is themed so well, and I threw it away because it's half a park, as I said.
mhm,
Like, but I hear you. It's hard to pick which one. I think Morocco is also a really cool one,
mhm.
which I've heard they've added new voices in the back. If you walk back towards Restaurant Marrakesh, like they've added voices, so it sounds like a more of a bustly street that
That
you
makes
might see in
sense.
Morocco.
That makes sense because that area back there always seems like extremely vacant. Like you go back there and there's just nothing going on back there.
Right.
So yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, so I can go with you on that one. Um so my number 2 is in the world of Avatar,
Oh
Pa-
boy.
Pandora. It's not necessarily the mountains, although those floating mountains are pretty dang awesome. It's not that waterfall that's between um, the river ride and Flight of Passage, but it's the area in front of Satuli Canteen and Wind Traders.
Mhm.
Um, for some reason, that area alone really pulls me into the movie. And I think it's because of the, and forgive me, Avatar fans, I cannot remember the name of the robot thing that the humans walk around with.
Mhm.
Um, but there's one there set up outside of Pangu Pangu, right? And they'll decorate it at Christmas time. They've had like there has been a guy in one of those suits walking around. I got to see that back in 2019. It was really cool. My son Jacob was loving Avatar at the time. He still does. We went and saw the new movie. It's great. He absolutely loved it. And we got to see this guy come out on the suit, and it was really, really cool. And he would talk to people, and I can't remember the interaction very well. I mean, come on, it was 4 years ago now, but but I just remember being in awe of this thing walking around. And it's kind of like a guy on stilts, I guess, but
Mhm.
it looks so much better than that. Um, but you've got the wind traders, and I'm thinking about these thatched roofs that cover like Satuli Canteen and wind traders and all that, and it kind of melds the whole um, war base versus the forest. It kind of brings it all together, continues the storyline from the original movie, and I just love the theming there. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And Brian, my number two is also in the world of Avatar, of course. I have a sneaking suspicion that our number one is going to be pretty similar also. However, I'm not 100% sure. Uh, but I'm literally going like feet away from you. Um, and my favorite area in Avatar, other than just like everywhere at night, just like I love just like exploring that area at night. I love to go to Pangu Pangu and get a drink and just like slurp on my drink and walk around and look at all of the iridescence. Um, but for some reason I just love that area right in front of the floating mountains. Uh, I love taking pictures there. I always take a picture there, standing there, just looking up at the floating mountains, and then looking up into this scape that they've created. And that scape is just full of like all kinds of stuff, like all kinds of like flora and fauna, and like there's like moss and trees and stuff. But it's like the air, like it's just such a good picture. Like that like the Imagineers had a picture in mind, like when they did this, and they were like, this is the picture area. And I know that also because um, whenever I'm in the queue for Flight of Passage, once you get up onto that bridge and you can kind of like look down into this area, I always like sometimes I'll stop and just let people go by, and I'll just be like, no, I gotta take a picture of this. Like I do it every single time, and I take a picture there, and I'll take a couple selfies with Kristen, and it's just such a cool. It's like for me the quintessential area of Avatar, because it's so cool, and it's like there's just so much going on there, and it's just so like it's just what the area is supposed to be is just like all of this vegetation and all of the, because it's like just a bunch of stuff that they like made up. Well, like Avatar made up, I guess.
Hmm.
But it's just all just sitting right there, and it's just like the perfect picture. So that's definitely my favorite area at Avatar.
I can't argue that one at all. I mean, I've done the same thing on that bridge, taking the
Yep.
pictures, and I mean, those mountains are just amazing.
Hmm.
Um, I, how they made that work is beyond me. Obviously, it's rods and
Physics.
different things and physics, but the way they hide it and make it actually look like they're floating, I think, is really cool.
Magic.
And so, why can't you take pictures? I mean, you have to. So,
Yeah.
um,
So before we get into our number one, with which, um, Brian, I hope I'm right with what I think yours is going to be. Um, we are going to go into some honorable mentions, and I have two honorable mentions. My first one is Adventureland. Just I love, and maybe it's because I've listened to Lou Mangello a lot, and just all like the story that like they've woven through that area, and like the history, uh is really cool. So I love walking through there, um, and seeing kind of like all of the different Adventureland areas, especially with like the Jungle Cruise and Pirates of the Caribbean. I mean, two of my favorite rides in the park. I just love that area. So that's an honorable mention of mine. And my second one is the Tangled bathrooms. People have definitely said that Tangled needs a bigger area, and I would agree, considering that I love this area and it's just bathrooms. So I would definitely agree with that. I love that they have a like a picture spot. I love that picture spot where you can like hold the glowing cube or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, I enjoy that area too, and the bathrooms are great. Thumbs up.
Yeah, that was one of my honorable mentions too. Was the Tangled area, and it's not a glowing cube; it's a lantern, a floating lantern from the
It is
movie.
the cube of Rubik.
It's if you're going to talk about these things, can you just name them correctly, please?
No,
um,
I'm gonna say things. I'm gonna name whatever I want to name.
okay, no one's going to know what you're talking about. So anyway, my honorable mention does include that area. I think it's a lot of fun to go over there and look for the Pascals that are available. Some of them are really hard to find, and others are not. So it's fun to go around and try to find them. I've had cast members help out here and there. Um, my kids like doing that as well. So, yeah, that's a great area.
So Brian and I were talking, and I think he's trying to think of something else in Magic Kingdom, because if you asked us what our favorite park is besides Epcot right now, it would be Magic Kingdom, and we've said lands from literally all the other parks.
We have there, and I mean, Tangled has gotten one honorable mention here,
Yep.
and that's the only thing within. I mean, other than you with your Adventureland
Mm-hmm.
thing, I love the Magic Kingdom. I think the theming throughout in small doses can be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But as a whole, it's very thrown together. And I think that just kind of goes back to how Walt wanted things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, his ideas, though, I mean, so here's your history tidbit, folks. The the his original idea with the hub was that you walked, and this is how it was when it first opened. You went into the hub, you walked over to a land, and then you came back to the hub. And then
Mm-hmm.
you went to Tomorrowland and you came back to the hub. And then you went to maybe Fantasyland and you came back to the hub. There was no exit other than getting back to the hub first. I heard an interview from him not too long ago where he was talking about that exact same thing as far as walking into Disneyland itself. He wanted one entrance, one exit, all the same. And so when it comes to, the rest of the park, that's how he was doing it. But it was getting very confusing and it got to be a lot of walking. So that's when they started connecting the lands on the outside so that you could go from Tomorrowland into Fantasyland. And I think because of that, there's been some confusion given to some of the lands. The transitions aren't as good. Um, like when I walk from Frontierland into Adventureland, it's like I don't really notice
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah.
change, right? Like Fantasyland, I guess, is a little better because you do transition from Liberty Square past Haunted Mansion and you go under that walkway, which is a choke point,
Mm-hmm.
into that tangled bathroom area. Um, so honorable mention, I guess, could be the overall theming. I
The
don't know.
theming. So Brian's second honorable mention is Magic Kingdom.
Only because it's the Magic Kingdom. Like,
It's the Magic
how
Kingdom.
can we not talk about the Magic Kingdom?
Exactly. You
Uh
can't have a Disney podcast without talking about the Magic Kingdom.
Well, you can. But when you're talking about something like this, I mean, like this is the original. Like there's got to be something that's come from this.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's gotten better when you get there, right? Like you've got your start with the Magic Kingdom and they've grown from there,
Mm-hmm.
which brings us to our number ones.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
So my number one is the market in Galaxy's Edge.
So close.
So close. I don't know what your number one is, but I have a feeling I know now since you said so close. Um, you know, walking through that market kind of brought me home almost. Like there's so many things in Star Wars that you want to do. Watching Qui-Gon and Anakin walk through Mos Espa, I'm sorry, and going to some of those stands, like that was something I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when Luke goes to Mos Eisley. Like obviously they're driving through, but you see some of these markets, you see some of the life going on there. You go and watch some of the peripheral stuff, Mandalorian, you watch Clone Wars, any of that stuff. Um, you do the same thing. Like you want to experience some of that, and this marketplace where you get to go from shop to shop, like that is one of those things that has really drawn me in, and I've really enjoyed being able to do those things. If I know what your number one is, you're going to hit on those same points there as well as I'm using for the market. But being able to buy a toy, being able to buy clothing, um, and Katsaka's popcorn cart, like you get it all right there. And I'll even take it to the most recent Obi-Wan Kenobi show when he is walking around looking for Leia, and you see all these markets, you see all these shops as he's walking along. Like that is just quintessential Star Wars, and you get to do that in that land.
Yeah, I totally agree. And my number one, I'm sure you've probably pieced it together, is the Millennium Falcon area in Galaxy's Edge. Uh, and I'm also going to lump. I was actually thinking about this. I'm going to lump the queue for Smuggler's Run into that, just because the theming in that queue, it's expansive. Like it's a big queue, and it like takes you around all of these like speeders that are getting worked on and stuff like that. I love just like listening to the chatter. Uh,
Yes,
but
yeah,
but yeah, but that main area with the Millennium Falcon is just great. Like just and I talked about the picture that they had at the Avatar Land. They did the same thing here. It's just like the best picture that you can get in this area of the park. It's just so great. And the fact that like you walk in there and like it's this big huge courtyard. Like you just always see people taking pictures and they're all dressed up in their Star Wars stuff, and some people will like jump in the air and hold their necks and like pretend like their friend is using the force on them. It's just like a really great place for people to like gather and just like gawk at like everything that the Imagineers have done. I love at night, and this is the second time I've mentioned lighting. I I love looking at the lighting that they have on the mountains, and then that really kind of like you don't really look at the mountains during the daytime, like unless obviously like you know to look at them, but then at night they're lit up all nice, and you really kind of get to look at the detail and like how all like this whole area is getting framed, because that's really kind of like the framing that they've done with this whole area is like you're kind of like in this canyon kind of like, and it's full of mountains, and just looking at like that kind of detail is awesome. I also have to say, um I guess this is almost kind of an honor mention, but it's literally just steps away from this area. But like all of those little, um, like alleyways that like lead to this like main hub area, Um, I just love like chilling there and like walking in and looking at the Millennium Falcon. And one of the coolest things about Galaxy's Edge is the fact that at night, they may do this at the daytime too, but I've only ever heard it at night. They will pump in sounds of like ships going over your head, because that's supposed to be like this like hub with like all of these ships coming in and out. um and so it's just like another like theme that like they thought of. They didn't have to do that. They could have put the Millennium Falcon somewhere and made it look all nice and put a ride with it, and we would have all just lost our minds. But these Disney Imagineers decided to go the extra mile, so that one time when Mikhailo was in the park and he was listening, he could hear speeders over his head and be like, oh wow, they definitely put speakers up on top of every single area that was here. So it literally sounds like there's a speeder going over your head, because it's like binaural, like it'll go left to right. um it's just very cool. It's just those little things that Imagineers will do in these lands that like make it all worth it, and it's just so amazing.
And it's supposed to be like a busy spaceport, so that adds to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel bad not picking the Millennium Falcon. And so while you were going on about how cool it is, which it is very, extremely, very cool, and I did struggle mightily with, is it the Falcon? Is it the Marketplace? Is it the Falcon? Is it the Marketplace?
Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, the Falcon was always there and always awesome. And as I was listening to you, I think if they would have found a way for me to walk up the ramp,
Oh, right.
like, I think that's what is the one thing that's holding me back.
Mm-hmm.
Had I been able to walk up that ramp, I would have lost it. Absolutely lost it. But alas, they did not find a way to do that. And watching some of the previews, for some reason I thought I got to do that, but you don't.
I think that
um
now thinking about it, I think they had a ramp down or a ramp somewhere when they were like dedicating everything, when like George Lucas was there. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know.
yeah, I'm not sure on that, but yeah, had there been a way for me to go up that ramp, um I mean, how many people are going to stop and hold on to one of those struts and go pew pew, like with that imaginary gun in your hand? Like, I can just picture it from New Hope when they're trying to get on the Falcon and get off the Death Star, and Han is standing there holding that strut and shooting away.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, yeah, that would have been the absolute be all end all for me.
The pinnacle of Brian's fandom. Well, I think we got all 10. Well, technically not 10, because we had a lot in common, obviously, because we're friends and we have a podcast. But yeah, I think we went through some great areas and some great lands. And it just show. I mean, there's so much more to talk about in Disney. Like we said, we didn't even really talk about Magic Kingdom. It was literally all of Brian's honorable mention. Um, so
And
yeah, I think we were able to get through a good amount.
yeah, I think it was great. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook. All the links are within the show notes.
But like we always say, some live close,
But others don't.
so let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.